All right. Welcome to this week's live stream on traveling on everyday spend. As you all probably already know, at the end of each show, it's recorded, and I put chapters with it so that it's easy for anybody to find different pieces if you want. But hopefully, you're looking at all of the show with all the different topics for this week. And want to also say to thank you. I want to thank each and every person that has taken their time to watch this live stream or watch the recording of the live stream, the long form videos and the short form that you like, you watch, you share, and you subscribe. I can't thank you enough for your support. It means the world to me. And I appreciate the feedback and comments that you provide. That's what's going to help me be able to provide you the best product possible. So please continue to share and your feedback and comments. Well, let's go and get started. As always, we start off with the agenda so we know exactly what we're going to be covering tonight. And the first thing that obviously we always cover the credit card intro bonus offers that are going on. We'll look at the transfer bonuses for the month of May. We're going to talk about Rakuten and their big give week that's currently going on. We're going to touch on Bilt's new partner, which is Hilton, and see if there's something worth talking about on that. We're going to look at the Citi Premier and the Citi Strata Premier and discuss that. We're going to look at the Qatar Credit Cards now that that's come off the wait list, and now you can actually apply for the cards. And then we're going to I'll give a little bit on the Saturday video that I'm going to put out, just a small preview of that. And then we're going to talk about the May Air France KLM promo rewards for the month. And then we'll also look at this month's Lufthans mileage and more bargains. So we got a lot to cover and want to value you and your time. So let's go and get started. What I want to start with, though, is I want to share my screen as we look at these intro bonus offers. And I want to stress how important it is to be able to, before you apply for any credit card, is to look at the incognito or your private mode. So let me show you a couple of screens here. And let's start with American Express's. So on American Express, if you go in your regular window and you go to the personal credit cards, you're going to see that there is 60,000 points for the gold, and you'll see that the 80,000 point is bumped up to 100,000. This is what everybody can see. And so keep that in mind. And then let's take a look at, let me get back out of that. And then let's take a look at Chase, and let's see what they're showing. And so for Chase, we've got here. And once we go into the credit cards and explore all the credit cards, and so what we see right now is $200 for the Freedom. And then for the Freedom Flex, we see $100 bonus, 5% groceries for $12,000 up to $12,000 for the first 12 months. Now that normally is $200 for just like the Freedom would be, is earn $200 for $500 spend. So now let's take a look at what the incognito mode will show for us. And so let me share the screen one last time for the incognito tab. And so let's go and type in American Express. And now let's look at those credit cards again. And now we see that the gold has now moved from 60,000 to 90,000 points. And we see that the platinum is 125,000. Now I will tell you that since I sat here for about 15-20 minutes and gone in and out of the incognito mode, I've seen one time where it was 175,000 points for the platinum. I haven't seen it any higher for the 90,000 on the gold, but that's a perfect example where you may be leaving points on the table by not using the incognito mode. And then let's look at Chase, which sometimes isn't talked about that much as far as the incognito mode. And let's look at the credit cards, and let's take a look at the Freedom Flex. So we see the same $200 for the Freedom, but now this time we're seeing $150 in 5% groceries. I've actually also seen it at no dollar bonus and 10% for groceries. So all of that is to say that it is very important for you anytime that you're going to look at applying for a credit card is to do the incognito mode and make sure that you are definitely getting the best value and the best intro bonus you can. And so I want to make sure that you're aware of that. And I want to say hello to Matt. Great channel that you should definitely be looking at. Has a lot of great, his tidbits show as well as his reviews have been great, and appreciate you stopping through. And then Fish and Ford. Yes, I saw the hundreds. Yeah, exactly. I hadn't seen it that high, but it's just surprising if you take a few minutes to be able to just kind of bounce around before you make the application. Just make sure. You just never know what's going to be out there. And that, I mean, you're talking about going from 80 to 100 to 125. And in this case, we've seen 175. So definitely keep all of that in mind. And so I just want to make sure to show you all that. So let's move back to the credit card intro bonus offers. And so I made a note on here as far as the Chase Freedom Flex of the 10% I had saw earlier, but also the 5%. And we obviously just saw the $150. The Chase Sapphire Preferred and the Reserve, obviously most people have heard about it, getting up to 75,000 points at this point. The one thing I would make note of, though, is now you can do that via referral. So if you've got a friend or family member that has a Chase Sapphire or Chase Sapphire Reserve, and they can be able to get 10,000 points for referring you to it. It's a nice little gift to be able to give to them. So if you're considering doing that, look at that first. Now, I will admit I'll put my referral link for it. But if you got a friend or family member, use them. Let them get the 10,000 points. But that's something to definitely take advantage of to provide a little bit of kickback or a play or two that you might have. And then the only other one is the Citi Custom Cash, which we've touched on before. Their special travel offer for that runs through June 30th. So not much else that we're seeing. I don't see anything on American Express, and I haven't seen anything on Capital One. And I'll say hello to Mr. Coco. Appreciate you stopping through. So that's it for the intro bonus offers. And then let's move to the May transfer bonuses. So we've got, for American Express, we've got 30% for the Virgin Atlantic Flight Club through May 31st. And then we also have Aeromexico rewards May 31st at 20%. I touched on both of those a bit last week. The Virgin Atlantic, I don't, myself personally, I don't do speculative point transfers. I just always believe that I'm always going to be in better shape leaving it in the flexible currency, Citi thank you points, Chase rewards, American Express, Bilt, or Capital One. So I don't speculate. And the Virgin Atlantic Flight Club, as I mentioned last week, that 30% is one that's kind of come up, I think, last spring. And I think it happened a second time near the fall. So there's nothing historic about it. But if you've got a planned trip and you already know where you want to go and you know Virgin's going to have space, then it's a good deal, but just don't speculate in regards to it. Aeromexico, I talked a little bit about that. Nothing great with that 20%, but we always like to have options. So once again, there may be a niche situation where it might fit for you. Marriott Bonvoy at 40% for Chase. I find it very difficult to transfer points for hotels unless it's Chase. Its valuation is much closer to a flexible currency, whether it's 1.7 or 2 cents a point, which is kind of similar to what Chase is at. And I know I can get outsized value for it while having a floor and not being involved with dynamic pricing for the most part. I will put a link for the March 17th live stream. I did a long look at Bonvoy. That was when the credit card offers were out for both Chase and American Express, and kind of really did a deep dive on the Bonvoy program. So that may be of help, and I'll make sure to put a link for that. And then Accor Live Limitless is coming up to an end here on May 11th at 50%. I had a bit of a discussion on that one on April 18th, and I'll put a link for that live stream there if you're not familiar with it. They have a very small footprint here in North America, a lot more in Europe, and there are some pretty good deals that can be had. And they are even having a train that will be in Europe that you can use these points with. So it's an interesting case, but if it's mainly if you're going to be in Europe is the main thing I saw. And then Qatar Privilege Club, Avios, the 30%, I mentioned about that last week. And the main thing to keep in mind, this is not the normal transfer that in this case Citi has, where you just do a simple transfer. This is directly with Qatar. So you'll need to keep in mind that it will take some time for you to get those points if you're going to consider doing it. And it's kind of expected to not be transferred until June 15th. So there's no instant transfer or anything because you're dealing directly with Qatar versus everyone else. So kind of keep that in mind if you look at that. But those are the main transfer bonuses that we have for now. And so topic 3, we'll move right to Rakuten and their Big Give Week. So the Big Give Week started on the 6th and it will run through the 13th. They have a lot of vendors that are going to be at 15% for their cashback. As I mentioned here in my thoughts, it's a great time to use this sale if you have the American Express Platinum Business Card or the Personal Card. Both Dell and Saks Fifth Avenue are at 15%. And as I put into my American Express video, which I'll put a link for, where I basically was looking at every credit and what value I got from it. I do use the Saks Fifth Avenue for the full full $100, $50 every 6 months. But I didn't give it the great value because sometimes I'll get something that I may not absolutely need, and that becomes the kind of concern sometimes with the Platinum, even though I love it. But this is the time where you get some very good value for that, as well as if you have the Business Platinum with the Dell credit. So definitely, if you have one of those cards, look at that. And then if you have American Express and for membership reward points, that cash back with Rakuten, you can actually get done as membership reward points. So you're talking about 15 points to membership reward points for every dollar spent is a really good way to be able to make some points on American Express. So Rakuten is definitely something worth looking at. And I'll say the same thing as I mentioned for Chase. They have referral offer. So if you've got a player 2, a friend or family member that has it, you all can basically trade the referral to get a little bit of money for them as well as for yourself. And I'll put my link down there if you don't, but definitely look at friends and family first because it's a nice little gift to be able to kick back to them. But once again, especially if you have a Platinum card, definitely take a look at the Big Give Week that runs through the 13th. And so topic 4, we move to the new bill transfer partner, which is Hilton. And as I put on what's going on, there's a few issues though. It's great to have an option, but the transfer ratio is only going to be 1-to-1. And one unfortunate thing with Bilt that the other credit cards do, normally if you have transfers, they normally are at a minimum of 1,000, and sometimes in some cases it can be as low as 500, especially for hotels. But Bilt is normally at 2,000 points minimum transfer. And so if you have a blue tier level, which is the base tier that everybody gets right off the jump, and then you still have that minimum of 2,000 points you need to do. If you have anything higher than blue status, you can do it at 1,000 points. So that is nice, but that 1-to-1 ratio is the problem. And as I say in my thoughts, Hilton is now a transfer partner. So now they have Hilton, Hyatt, IHG, and Marriott. The problem, as I mentioned, 1-to-1. versus Hyatt. Hyatt is at 1.7. If you look at the points guy, I believe, for cents per point. Bilt is valued at 2 cents, while Hilton is normally half a cent. So and I would say this for any other one for the hotels, really only as a top off at best. But I would not normally use Bilt for a hotel unless it's Hyatt. And keep that in mind that as far as when you look at American Express with Hilton, it's a 1-to-2. So you're definitely getting more value if you're going to go that route with American Express than Bilt. Now, in their announcement, they did say that this is just the beginning of their relationship and to look for further promotions and benefits. I think what we'll probably end up seeing is probably an upcoming rent day where you might get some status, maybe temporarily, some type of status match. Or we may end up seeing something where it's one of those outsized transfers that we've seen with other transfer partners, even though we've skipped about 2 to 3 months of those big transfer offers. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested in the Hilton points for a promotion type of thing, if you don't need them yet. But it's great to have the option, but not ideal for that transfer ratio. Now, topic 5 is we're going to look at the Citi Premier and the Citi Strata Premier. And let's see, we got Matt. When Hilton has a transfer benefit with rent day, it will be AMEX for gold and platinum holders. I would agree with that. Clearly, we've seen Bilt do some crazy outsized value at over 100% transfer offers when you get to the gold and platinum status. So I would completely agree with that. So as far as the Citi Premier and Citi Strata Premier, it's an interesting aspect. I have the Citi Premier card, and I was really interested to see what was going to happen with this. Now, this originally came from Doctor of Credit, who had some information that seems to be pretty solid. So the Citi Premier is supposed to end today as far as new applications. Now, if you do have a Citi Premier credit card, nothing probably will happen to it, just like the Citi Prestige still exists for people that have that card. It didn't get closed up. And so the Citi Strata Premier is supposed to launch this time next week. The one thing that he put in there, which is unfortunate but not surprising, is that you would not be eligible for the intro bonus if you receive the intro bonus for the Citi Premier or the Citi Strata Premier in the past 48 months. So that's not a surprising thing that is probably going to be in it, but we'll wait and see. And then as far as once again from Dr. Credit, talking about 75,000 points intro bonus with $4,000 spend in the first 3 months. Not surprising based on the fact that they're coming out right at the time while Chase is running their 75,000 point promotion. So that would not be surprising at all. The same $95 annual fee that we currently see on the Citi Premier. And then we have 10x on the hotels, car rentals, and attractions if you book it through the Citi Travel Portal, 3x on restaurants, 3x on gas stations and EV charging, 3x on hotels that are not through the portal, as well as 1x on everything else. As far as kind of some quick thoughts, the intro bonus is definitely competitive. It's worth looking at if you were even ever interested in the Citi Premier, and if this is going to be what it's going to look like, might be something worth looking at. And then as far as the differences from the Citi Premier is the 10x category being a permanent category. If they wouldn't have done this, I would have expected Citi Premier to make that a standard multiplier at some point in the very near future. And then the 3x on the EV charging instead of just the gas, which is on the Citi Premier. But those are the only differences. And so then I say, where is the Prestige? That's the card I'm looking for. I was hoping that the Citi Premier, Strata Premier, would be another notch up from the Citi Premier, even though I think it's a pretty good card. But kind of was left wanting for more. So now I'm waiting for the Prestige. I want to see what a premium travel card really looks like from Citi, and see if they were able to improve on the Citi Prestige. And we got a question from Yerrick. Any thoughts on when the Strata Elite comes out? And by the way, shout out to Matt for breaking the news on the Strata Premier. Now, see, I apologize for that. I had not seen Matt first, so I will definitely defer to the fact of him breaking it. And I was late on it, watching it versus looking at Doctor of Credit. So definitely, I will agree with that. As far as the Strata Elite or the Strata Prestige, I have not heard anything of when this is going to come out. Even when I saw that they had gotten these names a while back ago, and then boom, this kind of comes out. So it is definitely not something that I'm aware of as of yet. But we'll just have to kind of keep our eyes out for it. And then Yerrick, maybe the summer, but who knows? And thank you. Yep, definitely credit for that. And grabbed it from Freakermiler. All good. Yep, that's good. So that's kind of the thoughts in regards to the Citi Strata Premier and the Citi Premier. If it was something that you're interested in, consider it. But might want to see what happens with that Prestige, and what do they end up doing with? Do they have us do the American Express process of going through the Strata Premier to the Prestige? I don't figure they would, but nowadays I don't trust anything. So let's just kind of keep our eye out and see what goes on and make our best decision. So topic 6 is on the Qatar credit cards, which one or not at all. So we have obviously talked about this. There was points to be had on the wait list, 5,000 points for the original, for the base credit card, and 10,000 points for their premium credit card. And so on this one, we now know $99 for the Visa signature with a intro bonus of 20,000 points after your first purchase, and 20,000 additional points for $3,000 spend in the first 90 days. 4 Avios per dollar on Qatar Airways purchases, 2 Avios on dining, and 1 Avios on everything else. You'll also get 2 Q points for every $2,000 you spend, and you'll get silver status for the Qatar Privilege Club. The Visa Infinite at $499 has the $25,000 after the 25,000 points. I'm sorry, Avios points after the first purchase, with another 25,000 and also 150 Q points after spending $5,000 in the first 90 days. They'll bump up the Qatar Avios from 4 to 5, as well as the dining to go from 2 to 3 Avios, and then 1 Avios on everything else. And you'll get 2 Q points on every $1,500 spent instead of the $2,000. And you'll get gold status with Qatar Privilege Club for 1 year. So a couple things. When it comes to the Q points, they are based on the burgundy level, the silver level, which takes 150 points to get to. But if you have the Visa signature, you'll have that silver status. Then 300 Q points for the gold, and then 600 Q points for the platinum. And I mentioned that the gold is the equivalent to basically having the One World Sapphire, while the platinum is equivalent to the One World Emerald. So something to keep in mind for that. But that gold status with Qatar's Privilege Club is only for year 1. And we got Mr. Coco. Should we plan on waiting for the Strata Prestige? Any info out there? Wondering if it will be the same thing as the CSP or CSR, only 1 per person. I'll give my personal opinion. I don't think it's going to be like the CSP, CSR, at least on the surface. But because the Citi Strata Premier did not wow me, if I didn't have that car, the Citi Strata Premier, I probably would be waiting until I see what happens with the Prestige if I was prepared to pay for a premium travel credit card. That's kind of my thought. I see Matt did speak. I've been looking, but haven't seen anything. Yeah. But that's just my opinion in regards to it. I'm kind of waiting to see that card. I think that they're going to make that a really good card. And so I'm holding out hope that I'm right about that. So that's what we have for those two cards. And so I have another slide here because really the big deal, at least from people I've talked to, not so much for myself, is that it's really about getting the lounge access because we're not seeing that great of multipliers on this unless you're flying on Qatar Airways, but it's really the lounge, and that could be very good for some people. So when we look at One World Sapphire and One World Emerald, the Sapphire gives you access to the business class priority check-in, priority boarding, priority baggage handling. You'll get additional baggage allowance when you're when you're using a One World member airline, priority on the wait list and standby, access to preferred or pre-reserved seating, and then you get access to the business class lounge. And then, so that is what you would be getting with the gold right off the bat for that year. If you can get be able to earn some of those Q points and get moved to Emerald, now you're looking at mainly getting access to first and business class lounges, as well as access to first class priority check-in for that. So something to keep in mind. I see Matt has dropped a comment. Feels like a smash and grab, but Carlos, one card ever rule, as it seems to be, is worrisome. Completely agree. And that's why I think for me, and it might be for some people, I won't say most people, it's that lounge access, especially if you're a person that flies with Alaska or American here domestically all the time, then this is going to be a great deal for you, because if you got the One World Sapphire or Emerald through American or Alaska, you're not getting the access when you fly domestically. But because you're linked in with a international portion like Qatar, you now can use the lounges based upon your status as a One World Sapphire or One World Emerald. And we saw this same thing when British Airways had done their promotion a few months ago, where the same situation. If you were going to be a person here in North America who didn't normally get access to the lounge, now you did have the access to it. So that is a perfect case for where I could see a person getting the $499 card and fly enough to be able to get the points to have that lounge access domestically if you don't if you are flying American or Alaska. So then you've got to, of course, obviously figure, if you're not flying that often, are you going to be able to maintain that gold status? That's you're not going to look to probably spend your way there. You're really going to need to fly. So as for me, I only take 2 or 3 trips a year max. So I would not be able to maintain gold status. So just something to kind of keep in mind if you look at these cards, as well as what Matt had mentioned about the potential one card ever rule. And then the other thing you have to factor in is the other Avios cards that Chase has, the British Airways, the Iberia, and the Aer Lingus. They're currently at 85,000 points for intro with $5,000 spend in the first 3 months with a $95 annual fee. So to me, unless you're going to shoot for the lounge access with the $499 card, I don't know if you would necessarily be getting the $95 the $99 intro Visa signature card versus getting a British Airways or Aer Lingus or Iberia card. So definitely something to keep in mind. A lot going on with that. So hopefully you all, if you're considering it, got on that wait list for some extra points. And definitely let me know what you all end up deciding. I'll be very curious. So now we move to just a little tidbit. So Saturday is just a little preview. I'm going to have a video out on Saturday, and I'm going to be talking about high yield savings accounts. And mainly because of just a couple of reasons. When we do this points and miles game, we're obviously doing it to be able to save the money that we actually have. Being able to do this on what I end up saying, you're getting it on everyday spend, save your money, be able to use points. The high yield savings account, I kind of tie with it, is that for me as a person that has had Chase for a long time, when you look at the amount of interest that you're getting on your money, it is woeful. And so I thought this would be something good to kind of put out just so that you're aware of other savings options. And if you're not well versed on high yield savings account, I promise you there will be the information you need in it to make an educated decision of what may be best for you. So just wanted to kind of touch on that for a moment, and hopefully it'll be something that will be helpful to everybody. And then, so let's look at Air France KLM Flying Blue promo rewards. So each month we get the announcement from Air France KLM, and normally it's saving you 25% to 50% on an award ticket. Typically, they're from the Europe flights, Canadian, and a lot of East Coast US flights. You must book these between May 1st and May 31st, and the redemption must occur by October 31st of 2024. And so I wanted to kind of touch on just a few highlights from this list. And I will have a link for the Air France landing page for this program, and you can be able to find out even more details of the different flights that are there. So for economy, we're seeing flights out of LAX, Los Angeles, and you're seeing it from Austin as well as Minneapolis. Economy, 25% off. We're seeing 25% on premium economy between CUN. I can't believe I'm forgetting what that is off the cuff. Oh, Cancun, flying out from Mexico to Europe for premium economy, as well as Mexico City to Europe. And then you've got 25% off within Europe, flying between Paris and Bastia, Biarritz, Geneva. So I just wanted to kind of put a few different ones, not making the assumption everybody's in the United States. So wanted to just give a couple of examples with it. Couple of things to keep in mind. This is a great type of thing if you find something you like, because you've got points coming from American Express, Bilt, Capital One, Chase, and Citi that are options for you to be able to transfer to. And I'm definitely all about the diversity of where I have all my points at. So it's an easy one to be able to pull together the points for this. Now the taxes and fees are not discounted, so you might see somewhere around $200 to $300 each way. But when you're talking about some travel that could be in the 30,000 point range, it could be a very good trip if you find something that suits you. So once again, I'll have the links for that to be able to see and take a look at. And we've got another comment from Fashion Forward. Always interested in the up-to-date high-set options. I know, I appreciate it, and I hope you do like it. Definitely, I find it very interesting, and I hope you do too. So keep that in mind and take a look at what Air France KLM is if you're looking at any trips to Europe between now and October 31st of 2024. There may be something in there for you. It does change every month. So if you don't find something this current month, take a look for next month and keep an eye out for things. And then let's look at Lufthansa, Miles and More, and their bargain. So they are very similar to what we see with Air France KLM. They do this monthly. This month they have 114 offers from the US to locations around Europe. Once again, you must book this month by May 31st. And now the flight, you must fly between August 15th and September 30th. So that's one of the differences. They normally have a very tight window of when you can be able to look at doing your flights. So very specific, something to keep an eye on. Now, these redemptions apply to all of the airlines within that group, which is Austrian, Brussels, Eurowings, Discover, Polish Airlines, Lufthansa, and Swiss. The discounts vary depending upon the destinations and the fare class. But once again, I wanted to kind of give you just a couple of opportunities that that may be something that fits. You've got flights that are flying out of Newark on Austrian Airlines to Innsbruck. And so that one is 55,000 miles round trip, which is a great price from the point standpoint, but we'll have to talk about taxes and fees though. And then premium economy, we also have one deal that is listed for DC from Dulles to Brussels on Brussels Airlines, premium economy, 40,000 miles round trip. And then for economy, there's over 100 of those. And some of those options are from Chicago, Miami, New York City out of JFK and Newark, and DC flying on either on Austrian, Brussels, and Swiss, 30,000 miles round trip. And then even a Miami to Zurich flight on Swiss. So a lot of different options, once again, but tight window of where you might be able to get to look at that. And see another one from Fashion Forward. In your opinion, do you think the small redemption windows generate the demand these airlines may be looking for? I think that does make very good sense. I mean, they're doing this each month. And so I think they're projecting a little bit further ahead to be able to do this. And because of the taxes and fees, that is, in some of these cases, it's going to deter some people from doing it. So I think that makes perfect sense. There is definitely a rationale for how they pick the ones that they do, because they do change every single month. So I completely agree, and I think you're exactly right. So things to keep in mind: Lufthansa miles are hard to get. They're not part of a transferable currency of the major ones. You do have the Barclays Miles and More World Elite MasterCard that's got a 50,000 mile welcome bonus, which can almost take care of a trip just on the welcome bonus that you might consider. But other than that, it's hard to get these points unless you're earning them through the credit card. And then the taxes and fees are really high. I mentioned 200 to 300 on the Air France KLM, much higher for that, depending upon where the flight is going. So you definitely want to weigh your thoughts on that, if it fits. But definitely want to make you all aware of it, because there's going to be some good spots for some of you that may be looking at it where the time as well as the taxes and fees make it okay. And I'll put a link for the landing page for this, where you can be able to look at all of the different potential trips all in one place. So I'll make sure to put that link on at the end as well. But that kind of covers the things that I had in mind. So I want to make sure if anyone has any other questions or comments or anything for us to touch on about any of these subjects that we talked about, or anything else at all. I definitely want to leave time to be able to do that, and more than happy to. So we'll see if there are any real quick. And we do have one. Jaws wanted to do a Citi setup, but now it seems like the Capital One Duo plus a United Gateway card can cover my needs. And you know what? That Capital One Duo very well could in most cases. I think that that Capital One Saver One, even the one with no annual fee that I talked about, as far as if I was doing it all over again for dining and groceries, instead of the gold card that I have now, I would get, if I was starting all over today, and especially based upon American Express's whole family situation where you got to go in order, I would definitely be looking at that Saver One. And then, of course, the Venture, whether it's the Venture X or the sometimes forgotten Venture, I mean, you're still talking about getting the same intro bonus of 75,000 points on a $95 card. Sometimes it's going to fit some people and not do the Venture X, which may be sacrilegious to say, but I think that's going to be that. And I think the other thing is that you can still look at getting both. I think that especially when you're not talking about American Express with the high dollar amount to do a trifecta or two cards, it's oppressive. I mean, I feel like I get great value out of the American Express Platinum card, but it still hurts my heart to write a $695 check once a year, regardless of it, let alone that plus a $250 gold card. It feels a lot better to write a $95 one or a $300 one total for Capital One. But I think the big a good thing about the Citi one is that you still have the Citi double cash at 0. You've got the Citi custom cash, and then you can look at whether it's a Strata Premier or a Strata Prestige. So and still not have much of investment. But if I was going to keep it down to a minimum, I would definitely look at the Capital One Duo. And then as far as United, I think the interesting thing about the United, and I don't fly that much at all, but I thought that if you got to this United Explorer, which I still think was about $95 or $99, that ended up opening up more award space for you to be able to look at, that you got the benefit with that credit card than the average person would be able to. So depending on how much you fly United, and if you're doing it on awards, that may be something to kind of at least take a peek at before you pull the United credit card look. So just a thought and a suggestion. And then Fashion Forward, could you consider doing a video on best redemption offers for, you know what, I am actually working on that. I've sat down and have kind of put some things together for both. Well, really, I'm working on it for all 5. All of the flexible currencies to look at domestic redemption options as well as international. My hope is to start that getting out in 3 weeks. There's 2 that I've got coming out now this Saturday, and then there is 2 more after that. And then I would hope to kind of start that redemptions and kind of make it where you can, where it's different places within the United States, and why some of the good and the bad for what works for Capital One, what works for Visa, Chase, Citi, Bilt. So I am looking at that. So I appreciate you raising that as a possibility. It's definitely something that I've already started putting together, and 3 weeks. I will make sure that I will make the Capital One domestic the first video of that series. So I really appreciate you suggesting that, and I will hopefully be able to have that and fulfill what you're looking for. And then we got John again. Thanks for the suggestion. No, of course. That's the whole beauty of Points and Miles and all of these content creators, is just sharing information and being able to help people. And I mean, we're all kind of doing it for ourselves as well. So why not bring everybody along for the ride? And I've appreciated the comments that I've gotten from people on a couple of things that I could have done a little bit better on the information or something that people were looking for. So no, I really appreciate it. And thank you, new to this game, and find some. No, I appreciate it too. And I am not definitely one of the seasoned veterans of this. I think I'm probably about 3 years in of doing this. But I am absolutely committed to not using debit. I don't use a debit card at all. I don't really write checks. Everything is pretty much on a credit card. And I've been able to see what it can do. Whether I was in the Dominican at Hyatt Zilara last year during Christmas for a week, and was able to fully cover the airfare other than the taxes, and was able to fully cover the Zilara to stay there, all inclusive, in Cap Cana, which is kind of like their gated community over there. It was beautiful, and to be able to do that for essentially nothing was outstanding. One thing that I will say that was interesting is, so over there, they have, it's not for timeshares, but the construction company that helped build a lot of the Zilaras and Zivas in the Caribbean, does a promotion where they try to have you come in and talk to you about what your travel needs and what you're looking at. And then they kind of craft something through a travel agency that they've kind of started to be able to kind of make some money on it. And so I was talking with one of their representatives. I wouldn't have done it anyway if it wasn't for one of the Dominican people who were saying like, hey, I get this is how I get to keep a job here, and I want to be in the travel industry. So took about 45 minutes to go to this informational thing, and they said, well, how much do you spend and when on your last few trips? And so I had said that I haven't spent money really on any trip in the last 2 years. And so by the time that I met with one of the co-owners of the construction company, or whatever you might want to call it, and was talking with him, he couldn't believe he hadn't talked to somebody that had done that with points. And so he said, well, there's nothing I can do for you. You obviously are doing great with what you're doing. So it's that kind of thing that just tells you that how important that points and miles can be for what you're trying to do. So I just throw that out there. Take advantage, take your time. There's definitely no rush. And that's the beauty of points and miles, is that you can go at your own speed and make your own plan. Have you ever made a video of the Capital One Venture one? I have not, Jaws. I had considered doing one where it was kind of a comparison of the Venture X, and the Venture One, because I like the fact that Capital One really does kind of still cater to every kind of credit level you can imagine. But I've not done directly. So that might be something down the line. It is something I've looked at, and I think that it would be helpful. So I appreciate you putting in your comment on that, because I'll definitely give some consideration to it. Any other questions or any all? I can't thank each and every one of you all for your contributions and your thoughts and sharing. It's been great being able to talk with you. And Jaws, I am going to do it. We are at May 9th right now. Give me, I will throw that in between. In fact, you know what I will do, because you all have been so good. I'm going to first do, obviously, in about 3 weeks, I'm going to do that domestic travel for Capital One that Fashion Forward did. And then I'll take a break from that and do the Venture One. So I will do that video. Give me 1 month to do it. And I will make sure to put that out, and hopefully it will help you as well as others. So I will definitely put that out. Once again, thank you all so much for your contributions and your discussion on things. And if you have any other questions or comments, definitely put them in the comments. I make sure I'm very responsive to any questions that kind of come up, or comments on things. And I will make sure to put the links out for everything. Normally takes me about a half hour to chop it up and get those links out there. So thank you all so much. And you all have, well, for me, a great evening, but a great day, or wherever you're located at. So thank you all so much, and have a great time.